Okay. Hi, I'm Lynnette Streeter, and I'm on the board of Petersen Ministries. And we thought it'd be a good idea for you to get to know Beth, who's had a lot of healings from the Lord, um, and a near-death experience that I think she should tell you about.
Thank you, Lynnette. Yes, I have. I've had more experiences here than I think a lot of people. I've had the heart problems. I've had arrhythmia. I've had cancer. I've had blood clots. I've had clots going through my heart into my lungs. And I'm still here. The one that we were talking about was of my death experience. I've always heard a lot of people say that they're afraid of death. And I want to tell them that there's nothing to be afraid of. It's like walking, just stepping across the bridge or something, not even a bridge, just stepping over the curb, and you're there if you've accepted the Lord. And it's a very calm experience, very rewarding experience. I have arrhythmia. I was born with it. And when I was younger, it didn't bother me as much, but as I got older, put on a little more weight, it started acting up. When I was 30, I had blood clots in my right leg, and they went up through the heart and into my lungs, did a little bit of damage there. Then I had the clot that plugged the main vein to my leg, and I started with ulcers and more blood clots there. And from there, then the heart just kept getting worse all the time. It would get to where the heart would be beating so bad. At night, you'd wake up and it felt like your heart was doing, or something was doing a flip-flop in your stomach, just like it turned over. And every time I went to the doctor, nothing would show up. And this went on for quite a few years, to where I think they were thinking that as a hypochondriac because I came so much. But we went through it. We kept going. It kept getting worse. Oh dear, now what? And the one night, or the one day that I got up, I told Harley that day that I had a bad night and that I was going to rest all day, and he said fine. And our son called, and their little guy was supposed to be taken by cesarean session or a month before his birth, but he was coming earlier, so he said we better come over. So I hurried up and started getting showered, getting ready to go. And as I was brushing my teeth, I sat on this tub there, and my mother came. And I said, boy, Mom, I don't feel good. And she said, well, why don't you come on in here and sit down for a minute? And we sat down there, and I said, I don't know. I said, I think I'm getting the flu. But I knew better. And then I said I had to throw up. And Harley came in, and I sat there for a little while. I started to say to him that something wasn't right because I had such a buzzing feeling, numb feeling in the chest. That was all I knew. The next thing, I was in the clouds up to my waist, and I was going up. I was not walking. I could not see my feet at all. I was not walking. It was like you're kind of on an escalator just going up. Looking around, wondering really kind of where I was at. And this went on for a little while, and just calm, curious, seeing everything. And I come to a white fence. And as I was coming near to the fence, it was like it was, if you go into an arena or something and you hear all this noise of people talking, buzzing and buzzing. So as I got to the gate, the gate opened, 2 men came out, and they said, Beth, we're so glad you're here. And at that time, then I heard Harley calling. So then the next thing I knew that I was on the floor, and Harley was giving me
CPR.
CPR, yeah. And a neighbor had just came in just before, as I was coming out of it. A neighbor's son was working for the rescue, and he came in, and he knelt down beside Harley, and he looked at me and he said, "Oh, Harley, I'm so sorry." And at that time, I looked at Harley and I said, "What are you doing to me?" And they took me over to the hospital, and I felt fine. All the tests that they did, there was no damage, nothing. They did not know why. They said something happened, but they don't know what. So I was in the hospital at Blair, and they did a few tests, and then I was transferred to Omaha. And I was good enough that I could even, Harley drove me down, I walked in it. And as we were walking through into the room, my daughter-in-law and myself, I was behind. There's an older lady and her family were in that first bed. And she said, "Oh, how beautiful." And I turned around and I said, "What?" She says, "You're just beautiful." And I thought, boy, she must be senile because you don't look beautiful when you've been in the hospital. But I really did not care whether anyone talked to me, whether I just wanted to lay there and, as I say, bask in this light, warmth light, like a cat. You see, stretching and doing like that in the. That's just the way I felt, and like I had a warm blanket around me. And all the time that I was there, that's the way that I felt. Just don't bother me. Just leave me alone. I just want to lay here. And at first I didn't realize what it was. But after I've looked at some of the others, and I realized that it was the glow, the afterglow that they talk about. And it eventually leaves you, but it sure does. You don't want it to. I went on from there. I was still having a lot of trouble. Spent a few more years running in and out of the hospital. Each time I'd go in, they'd do a new session on me, something new, and it'd be a little bit better. And then I'd get home, and then I'd be back in again. We finally, the last time I went in, I had just been to the doctor to be checked. And I went home, and as on the way home, the heart started in again. And I thought, oh dear, should I go back? And I thought, no, I'll go home and rest, it'll go away. I was on a Friday. Harley came home, and I said, I don't feel good again, Harley. I said, I'm having some problems. And he says, okay, you just rest. He says, I'm going to fast. I'm going to pray for you. So that evening, every time he walked by, he prayed on me. Saturday, every time he walked by, he prayed on me. Sunday, I thought, don't walk by and pray for me anymore because it was getting worse. And we were getting ready for bed. It was about 12 o'clock that night. And he said to me, he says, he was in his pajamas, and he said, don't you think that we should take you into the hospital? And usually I say, no. And I said, yes. So we went in there, and as we went in, we're on the way, the heart settled down. I said, oh, let's go back home, Harley. He said, no, we're going in. They hooked me up to all the little machines, and my heart beat looked like a little kid scribbling. Just, there was nothing there. And he came in, and the doctor came in and looked. He says, well, the medicine isn't working that we've been giving her. He said, we can do two things on her. We can go in there and cauterize you're supposed to have one signal going from the top of the heart to the bottom, and that tells the bottom one to beat. He says we can cauterize that, or no, go ahead and cauterize all those little signals. Or we could go in there and do an ablation, and that's where they sever the two hearts, and the bottom then beats. I said, well, I think I'd rather have to have the second one. So they went in the next day. They went in at 8 o'clock. And Mom and Harley were waiting in the waiting room, and they waited until in the afternoon, and they came out and said that it wasn't working. That every time that they cauterized one signal, another would pop up. And they had counted 41 in there. That they'd have to go for the ablation. And that's what they did. It was 11 o'clock when they took me out. I went home the next day. and it seemed to do a lot of good, a real lot of good.
Yeah.
And I've had more since then.
Mm-hmm.
But it's we've gotten the heart. Well, the heart was at that time when the first time it was enlarged, and they said it was beating 20% of its capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's up to 50 now,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm doing pretty good as far as the heart's concerned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm very thankful.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of mine.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
I've had about 3 or 4 other ones that we'll talk about those later on.
Okay. Okay. That is great. Thanks.
Oh, are you happy?
Yeah.